Welcome to the Wise and Happy Life podcast, where ancient wisdom meets modern science, and mindfulness, philosophy, and happiness practices blend with neuroscience, compassion, and common sense. Hosted by Bob Martin, meditation mentor, happiness coach, trial lawyer, and entrepreneur. This podcast explores how to live with grace, presence, and purpose in a complex world.
Hey, hello, good people, and welcome to another episode of A Wise and Happy Life. And this is part 2 of our wonderful episode with Kelly Waggoner, a clinical psychologist and an experimenter in pushing the boundaries and finding what really works in bringing about change and helping us reconnect with our authentic selves. So when we finished up part 1, we were talking about the use of ketamine, a psychedelic drug, in a legal way, in a pragmatic way, in a way that's watched over. And Kelly has discovered that there is many levels that this works on and dimensions. And so we're going to get into that. And we're also going to get into beauty and awe and how that changes lives. So Kelly, can we pick up where we left off?
Absolutely. Thank you,
All
Bob.
right. Sure.
We were talking about, go ahead.
Yeah,
you lead the way.
So you had mentioned, to me at least, that, what you find is that the use of this medicine actually helps people integrate these three spheres,
Right.
of their mind, body, and spirit. So let's go back there.
So when you make the choice to go into the realm of psychedelics, you never know what you're going to confront, but there are sort of 3 buckets of experience. If we were going to really step back and generalize, people can have psychedelic experiences that are insight oriented. They have aha moments, revelations, connections, and that gets put in the mind bucket. In the body bucket, we have somatic experiences where maybe people are feeling in their bodies something they're not used to feeling, like peace, joy, connection, and they're imprinting, creating a body memory of a way of being that will now, on the back end of this experience, be easier to get back to because they've had the felt sense, the felt experience of it. In that body bucket is also having the thinking mind step aside so the body can do the processing of past experiences, past challenges, past traumas that have occurred, because so much of our processing really happens through our body, not our mind.
Now in my meditation training, I remember being at a retreat, and at the retreat we were talking about emotions. We were starting, we had gone through watching our thoughts, labeling our feelings, and then talking about this crazy thing called emotion. And the teaching that we received was that your emotion is a thought combined with a body sensation. So that if I were to say to you, Kelly, I love you, but I don't have this feeling of something in my chest, this constriction or the sensation, the body sensation, it's just an intellectual comment.
Right.
And if I have the body sensation without the thought, I might think I have indigestion.
Right.
But when I have the two together, I have an emotion. So I remember sitting on the cushion and getting all emotional, thinking that meditation was going to be the solution to the world. And I got up off the cushion and I went to the teacher's room and knocked on their door and went in there and told them how we have to get this out into the world right away. And I was all excited and emotional. And the teacher goes, "Oh, okay, Bob. Well, let me see. You're having some thoughts." And I go, "Yes." And she goes, "And you're having some body sensations." I go, "Yes." She goes, So I said, "You're having some thoughts and you're having some body sensation." So I said, "Back on the cushion, huh?" She goes, "Yeah, back on the cushion." So it was helpful to be able to deconstruct what had been very powerful in driving me into those two components.
Mm.
But I think what I'm hearing you say is that the somatic, the body sensation component alone, can be worked with independently.
Absolutely. I have a meditation I lead people through based on the work of Dan Siegel called Feel It to Heal It,
Mm-hmm.
where we invite the thinking mind to soften as much as it can, descend the energy, the awareness, attention down into the body, find somewhere in the body that's feeling something other than comfortable. Maybe it's feeling a buzzing, or it's feeling flat, or it's feeling whatever it is, a feeling in the body. And then just sit and breathe into that place in the body. And this is also, if you've heard of Jill Bolte Taylor, who wrote Stroke of Genius, this is based on her work that if we can stay with the feeling for
The
90
body
seconds, about
sensation.
just the body
Body
sensation,
sensation. Mm-hmm.
the felt sense,
Mm-hmm.
that it begins to soften
Mm.
the discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
And I really find that to be true, that so often we go the opposite, like, let me figure this out through the mind, and that will help the uncomfortable feeling in my body. It's like, no, let's first go into the body sensation, breathe with it, be with it. The key is not attaching any story to it for those 90 seconds. If we start to bring in, oh, I'm feeling this way because, or I know what this is, or this caused it, nothing's getting moved
How
through.
about I don't like this feeling?
That's a story. That's a mind
That's a
thought, right?
story.
Yes.
So
Yes.
just being with it. And so, well, that's the same thing as having uncomfortable thoughts and just allowing them to be. Eventually, you
Mhm.
kind of get bored of them and they go away on their own.
Yep.
And you're saying that by staying with, because I hear that from my students a lot. I hear, oh, I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't like the feeling of this. But
Right.
you're saying that if we can just stay with the feeling, like we stay with uncomfortable thoughts, it will soften.
Yeah, it's that resistance, right, that creates the suffering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. Okay, you don't have to like it. Let's just take that off the table for a moment.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Can you just go bring your focus and awareness to wherever in your body you're feeling it? And that can be confusing for people at first, so they might have to kind of guess. And
Yeah,
that's
right.
okay. This is a
Right, right.
practice.
Mm-hmm.
And just breathe into that place. And what happens is there's a lot of, I don't like it, has a lot of just fear. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like it because I don't know it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is. But when we go and actually are with it, just through our attention, our witnessing, the uncertain that, I don't know what it is starts to go away. All of a sudden, I know what it is. It's actually not that scary. It's just a sensation. It
Mm-hmm.
might bring some tears up. It might bring some heat up. It might bring up different sensations, as a ripple effect in the body. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's typically after that period of time, people aren't saying, I didn't like it. They might be saying it was uncomfortable, but that resistance goes away.
In a, I use the term learning to tolerate the suffering, but
Right.
it's deeper than that, I think.
It's growing. Again, this is in the work of Dan Siegel, who's just fantastic at taking these big concepts and making them really relatable. He calls it growing your zone of tolerance,
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
when we can go be with something, if our zone of tolerance, if people are listening to this, they can imagine like the zone at which they can stay comfortable is maybe, 2 feet wide. But if you can go and be with more uncomfortable parts of yourself, all of a sudden that zone grows into 3, 4, 5 feet wide. You can have higher highs and stay connected to yourself, and lower lows and stay connected to yourself, because your zone of tolerance could also be called your comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
grows. And all of a sudden life has more texture
Mm-hmm.
and color, because there's more zone of experiencing without you either at that upper end of your zone, you go into anxiety. At that lower end of your zone, you might go into like flattening or avoiding. Instead, you can stay really alive because your
alive.
zone is bigger.
It's kind of there's these two children, who, one of them, if they fall, and I'm not talking 3 years old, I'm talking they're 12, 13, 14. If they fall and do a little skin of the knee, it's the end of the world, and their whole world has collapsed, and it's going to collapse, and they lose half a day
Right.
just in that. The other one will skin their knee and wipe it off and can't even get mom to put a Band-Aid on it because they want to go out and play.
Right.
So, because the pain is the same for both of them, it's the same hurt, the same, but one of them just has a tolerance for it and the other doesn't. And what I'm hearing you say is that by increasing that zone of tolerance, you actually give yourself more life.
You do. Full
Hmm.
stop. You give yourself, like that kid number 2 now has that many more hours in their day to
Mm-hmm.
go be an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Kid
Mm-hmm.
number 1 is, also having a meaningful experience, but it doesn't have as much life vitality
Mm-hmm.
experience in it.
Right. And they both build on each other,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yes.
One
Yes.
is increasing. There's somebody mentioned it. It's somebody else used the metaphor of a cup.
Mm.
You can, in terms of the intensity of emotion that you can tolerate, that if your cup is a teacup, you can't tolerate too much. But if it's a mug, you can put more in and, grow. So grow your cup, grow your zone.
Yeah, I think I like that metaphor because it's touching into overwhelm. When we
Mm-hmm.
hit overwhelm or overspilling, that's
Mm-hmm.
when all of our sticky stuff happens. We go into our like more primitive defense mechanisms. We retreat, we get aggressive, we
Mm-hmm.
avoid, we shut down, whatever it is. So yeah, if that vessel, that cup can grow, what we can put into our life
Yeah.
just a lot more.
And what we put in our life matters.
Yes.
For those of you that are watching this on video, you can see that behind Kelly, there's a side of a room that has a rack, I would call it. And
It's a
on those are all
bookshelf.
these
Yeah.
cool looking things. So tell us, what you have discovered about creating the narratives of beauty, awe, and the like,
Mhm.
and how that works, in your practice.
Yeah, there's a metaphor of a garden and our attention being the water. If I'm putting my attention on the weeds, I'm watering the weeds.
Mm-hmm.
If I put my attention on the flowers, I'm watering and therefore growing the flowers. And so as much as it is about having beautiful things, so on the shelf behind me, I have books that have changed my life. I have candles. I have iconography. I have crystals. I have art, things that I really think remind me of felt experiences. I can look at the spine of a book and remember how I felt inspired by those ideas, or I can look at the flame in the candle and be mesmerized for a moment. And by having these objects of beauty, they're reminding me to bring my awareness, my water, to beauty, to the things that I really want to grow. And so I feel inspiration. I feel, all these different things when I look at these
Mm-hmm.
objects. Now, the key is remembering to actually see them, not just look at them, but see them.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we have objects, they can also just kind of fade into the background. So, yeah, I think, there's a reason why nature is so impactful for humans when we really take it in.
Mm. When I sometimes there'll be a column that I'm interested in. At least I read the headline, and I start reading the column, and it's long, and I'm getting through it, and I kind of have gotten now I haven't quite gotten everything that I wanted to get out of it, but now I'm starting to get impatient from the reading, and maybe I close it or stop it, or I don't finish it, or I don't give it the time that I initially had wanted to, because some sense of impatience comes up in me and the like. So, I think that many of us might do what you're describing, and then, something interferes with it and says, well, I don't have the time to spend, just,
Right.
willy waggling around here looking at this beautiful thing. So, what do you think that's all about? I mean,
Oh, there's so many layers. The first thing that's popping into my head, though, is like our culture is so programmed to be wary of stillness, of slowing down. Like we're all
hmm
on these treadmills and we don't want to get off, because when you get off, it actually is kind of harder to get back on.
hmm yeah, yeah.
Um, and when we slow down, the other thing that happens is we can come into contact with stuff that we had actually sort of unconsciously been moving away from, running away from. And so I think there's just a cultural programming of pacing. We just don't slow down. When we have space now, we grab our phones and fill the space. It's just in our culture. And so there's like one side of like, we have to reprogram ourselves to remember space, to remember stillness, to remember presence.
Okay, let's go with that for a second.
Okay.
So, how do we reprogram ourselves? Okay, let's take I'm sitting here. I'm looking at right up here. I'm looking at my gong,
Mm.
my little bowl here, and that happens. And I say, well, I have great memories of it, but now I'm starting to say I don't have time for this, or something. What do I do? How do I reprogram myself?
So there's probably 1,000 books with different strategies, but again, I'll give you what's just coming to me in
hmm
in what we're talking about. We're talking really about reprogramming our nervous system.
Uh-huh.
Most of our nervous systems they're entrained to the pace of our culture, which is
hmm
very stimulating on all levels of the senses, right? What we see, what we
hmm
hear, what we feel, all of it is very, very full and busy. So we actually do, unfortunately, have to retrain ourselves to be present. It's like back in the day, let's say 300 years ago, there were no gyms because everybody was working their bodies in different ways with whatever it was they were doing in their day,
Right.
right? There were no meditation studios. People were just feeling the breeze on their skin, or they were tending to their land, or they were weaving a basket.
hmm
Mindfulness was built in to our
hmm
culture. It
hmm
is not anymore. We are not programmed to just be present with whatever is. And so a really easy way, and if people are not able to do this, look at your resistance, because everyone can do this. When you see something beautiful, you taste something delicious, you hear something pleasing, take one breath of savoring. And I use that word intentionally because it's a tactile word.
hmm
Find 5 things in your day that you can savor. When you're on a walk, is there a flower that you can just take one breath and savor? For
hmm
me, it's always tea. I've got my mug of tea with me and I take a sip and I savor it. For you, it might be looking up at that beautiful gong, that beautiful bowl, and savoring the felt sense of what it conjures up in your body. So
mm
in the spirit of beauty, which is like, why are we here on earth? I mean, one of the reasons I think is to enjoy.
hmm
Like being human, we have all these senses. Why do we have all these senses? Why do we have all these nerve endings in our tongue, in our hands, in our feet? It's like to feel, to sense, to touch, right? All these things, to taste. Let's savor this human experience. And by doing so, we're building into our nervous system a different pacing.
Yeah. It's there's an old Zen saying that says that you should meditate for 15 minutes a day, unless you don't have time to meditate for 15 minutes a day. Then you should meditate for an hour a day.
Yep, I had a feeling that's where it was going. Yeah.
Because we just don't realize that we actually do have 15 minutes a day. You know,
Yeah,
it's
and
funny when
I'm taking it even smaller is 5 breaths.
5
That's
moments.
it. 5 moments of savoring.
Hmm. Hmm. I know it's funny. I might be talking to person A about meditation, and person B overhears it. And oh, I need that. That's what I need in my life. I'm so stressed out and everything else. And I say, well, do you have 10 minutes a day to practice? Oh, no, I don't think so. Well, you could get up 10 minutes earlier. Oh, well, I would never do that. And I think about it. Here is something that is doesn't cost anything. You don't have to go out of your house. Isn't physically challenging. Doesn't require any special equipment. All you need to do is sit
Right.
or walk and just be present. And the culture, tells us it's just not a priority.
No, the culture tells us fill it.
Fill
Fill
it,
the space, fill the
fill it.
time.
I there's a couplet in the Tao Te Ching, which the Tao Te Ching is the seminal book of Taoism. I'm just saying that for your audience, and it translates to mean the classical book of the way of virtue. And it's 81 little poems, but the very first poem has a couplet in it that goes, caught in desire, you only see the manifestation. Free from desire, you see the mystery. And that was always a little bit enigmatic to me. But just the other day, I was sitting on the back porch with my wife, and she's a landscape designer. And so we have all of the extra leftover landscaping materials that she had from all her jobs are in our garden. It's a gorgeous garden.
Mm.
And I was sitting there just seeing it and being it and feeling connected to it and hearing the birds. And then all of a sudden I looked at a bird feeder and I was disconnected because the bird feeder needed to be filled. And all of a
Right,
sudden I got what the couplet meant. It
right.
meant when I had something to do, which I'm not saying that's not important, that you shouldn't do that,
Mhm.
because we have to do stuff
We do.
and things have to get done. So when I feel like I have to do it, then I'm in my do mode. But when the moment before that, when it was all just one thing, all interconnected, just, in its natural state, I was in the be mode. I was
Right,
being with it. And then I
right,
was in the do mode, both being important,
right,
but it was at that moment that I really felt the shift. And it feels
right,
very, very different,
right.
just to
So
be
for
with the thing.
you, it might be bringing, the saying, going from human beings to human doings, bringing your human beingness to your
Mm.
human doingness and
Uh-huh.
integrating the two.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Now that's why they call them who live in the Shaolin Temple masters.
Mm.
It's- that's I don't know, that would be a challenge to bring that sensation of being into the act of doing.
There's a technique
Mm,
in Vipassana meditation training where you choose a mindful moment. For example, washing your hair, doing the dishes, where you bring all of your senses to the doing. So if
mhm.
we're going to
Oh,
take
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the mindful
Watching
moment of
the
washing
mindful
your
moment.
hands,
Yeah,
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 you're
I
like,
get you.
you're in the sensation of the temperature of water, the smell of the soap, the sound of the stream. And by bringing that kind of awareness to the doing, it becomes being.
No, I get
And
that
I
because
love those techniques where it's like, we
mhm,
don't have to necessarily be on the cushion.
right,
We
right.
can be
No,
doing the dishes and have this presence with
and
it.
when in my teaching, I always ask my students to choose something every day to do mindfully, something different, something that normally they do mindlessly.
Mhm.
While their mind's going a million miles an hour, to just make the bed, wash the dishes, and my
Mm.
favorite thing to do mindfully is taking a shower.
It's the best. That's
Oh,
mine too.
take a
That's always
shower.
mine. Because it has so many pleasurable
Oh
sensations.
my, yes.
Yeah.
The warm water, the soap, it's really quite sensual, even if you're
Yes.
alone. I mean,
Yes,
I don't
maybe
mean
especially if you are.
especially.
Yeah, and I think there's a misconception about these practices around mindfulness and meditation that they're transcending the human,
Hmm.
right? We're getting
Right.
beyond.
Hmm.
But it's like, oh, like let's descend mindfulness into the body, into the
Hmm.
senses, and awaken that way as well. And I think it's sort of the feminine approach to mindfulness is really this, what we're talking about, beauty and awe and pleasure and sensuality, and the mindfulness that we can bring to being human
Hmm.
in that way.
Oh, sweet. So I want to take you to another level, a spiritual level,
Mm,
because all of these things kind of border on a sense of connection to something so much bigger than ourselves,
right.
which I don't know, even that may be a misnomer, in terms of the divine, because how can it be bigger than ourselves if we are it?
Drops in the ocean. When the drop leaves the
It's the
ocean for
ocean.
a moment, you can see the drop, but
Drop,
the ocean's made up of all those drops, and yet it's the ocean.
and yet it's the ocean. And yeah, so um, you have ventured into this area quite deeply. Tell us, you know, what your practice has taught you about the connection of folks to the divine, and what
Yeah.
that process. I'm not sure what I'm asking you, but I think you know what the answer is.
I think we're speaking telepathically right now.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Um, yeah. So the third bucket we were starting to talk about in psychedelic work
Hmm.
is spirit,
Hmm.
spiritual self, soul self. Um, like I said, for many years, I was a meditator. It feels weird even saying that.
Hmm.
I'm just a person who sits and gets quiet and
Hmm.
breathes and comes into the present. And in that, I learned through direct experience that there is so much more than I can be aware of through my normal, ordinary consciousness. There'd be states I'd drop into in meditation where I could feel in my body oneness, interconnection. And it doesn't matter what that oneness is, it just was a felt sense. And what I'm really here to share is spirituality when it's I'm going to take that was about to be a judgment. I'm going to say it differently. There is so much to be learned about our spiritual selves through direct experience,
Hmm.
unmediated by doctrine or dogma. And that's something that the practice of meditation can show people. But in many, many years of suggesting meditation to people, I see that they pretty much never do it for very long, right? That's okay. And then there's this tool now we have, psychedelics, that catalyzes spiritual growth for some people because, like we are talking about, it bypasses the thinking mind that wants to understand and it brings into the direct experience the knowing of the mystery of what we that we're just seeing and knowing such a small percentage of what's actually here. And so for me, two methods, two paths to my spiritual self were meditation and then my own intentional psychedelic work, where I got to directly experience my unique spiritual self. It's going to be different for everyone. So when I'm working with clients in ketamine, what can happen, not all the time, but can happen, is people have a direct experience of something spiritual. It might be their higher selves, their soul selves, their true selves. It might be an experience of oneness, of universal intelligence, of interconnectivity. But what I love about it is I'm not telling them what is. They're having the direct experience themselves and determining for themselves what is. And so we're taking the experience of the divine sort of out of religion, which is, I don't want to say it's all problematic, but what I do find issue with is being told what your spiritual self is. There's something so much deeper about experiencing our spiritual selves.
You
And
know,
so that's the
and that's not something that I don't know that there's anybody that has not experienced that. The only thing is that we often experience it in little flashing moments that
Mhm.
we kind of shrug our shoulders about afterwards and leave behind. Sitting on a mountaintop watching a beautiful
Right,
sunset, you just forget you exist. Just for a
right,
moment, you're caught up in it, and all of a sudden you are the sunset. You're just pulled
right.
into it and you're there. And then the sun goes down and you go, well, that was really nice. And we walk off, and they're doing some research at the Greater Good Science Center about awe. And
Mm,
they're finding that they're comparing awe to the positive mirror of PTSD,
hmm,
in that it is something that changes your neural system immediately. But because of our negative bias and the fact that our survival and protection is such much stronger,
right.
PTSD is much more intense and much more changing, whereas the sense of awe really needs to be nurtured.
And
So,
that's what we're talking about in these, like, practices, right? These
mhm,
day-to-day of really being with something beautiful,
mhm, mhm,
right? Like, the
mhm.
awe of having clean running water.
Ah,
Right?
yeah.
Like, you're right, we have to nurture it. It's not just built in to our culture.
Mhm,
I'm being reminded right now of when, space technology was such that we could go up into space and we got back images of Earth for the first time,
mhm.
and how for so many people, they had the most intense experience of awe to see our planet from afar and to see how small we
Yeah,
actually
I'm
are
feeling
on
it
it,
now, just as you
right? You
described
can
it,
picture
right?
that
Yeah,
first image we got back,
yeah.
and it's like, oh, like, that was such a big collective moment of awe that, I mean, it's just so sacred, and so awe, I would say awe is spirituality. It's
Mhm.
connecting us to something bigger. It doesn't need to be, this big complicated thing. It's a felt sense.
Yeah. So there's so much more we could talk about, but time. They remember the Chambers Brothers. Time is on my
Time
side.
is
No,
on
I,
the side. It is, and
it is.
it's time's an illusion,
Right.
right?
Yeah. So, Kelly, if some of the folks that have been listening to you want to get in touch with you, is there anything that you can offer them? Any further
Yeah.
information? And do you have some programs? And what have you come up with that will help people continue to move forward on that path?
So I co-own a brick and mortar center called Wellspring 88 in Redondo Beach, California, which is a true integrative wellness center where we have meditation, breath work, qigong, yoga, And then we also have deeper dive programs. We have ceremonies tied to the seasons. We have circles. We have group gatherings. So if anyone's ever in the South Bay of California, we'd love you to stop in. It's really a special place. I don't really see clients too much anymore as far as new clients because I'm doing a lot of other things. But what we're going to release in January 2026 is a series of recorded meditations that are blending psychology and spirituality into having meditation journeys. So
Hmm.
our website is wellspring88, just the numbers 88.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Wellspring88 Collective and keep in the know about our digital offerings that are going to start becoming available in the new year.
Well, how about coming back in the new year and talking about them?
I would love that.
I would love for you to come.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for listening. Kelly, thank you for your time, for your wisdom, for your heart, for your love, for your caring. Um, it's just been an honor.
Thank you, Bob. I feel the same.
Be well. And everybody, be happy.